tell us about yourself. Like, how long have you lived in Cibolo, and what do you do for a living?
Well, I have lived in Cibolo for 18 years. My family had some land back directly behind Still High School that was purchased in the 80s. And my husband and I moved back onto that land in 2004. And I and my husband have a swimming pool company, a residential swimming pool company, Gunite custom in-ground swimming pools.
Okay, this is Mark Allen. I'm a councilman for Cibolo District 5. I moved to the community back in 2009 with my wife and my son. And we originally lived in Schertz for about 4.5 years. And then we decided to move over to Cibolo in 2013. And before we moved to Cibolo, we were lucky enough to welcome our daughter into the world. She's 11 years old now, but she was born in 2011, so while we were still living in Schertz. But we just love the Cibolo community. It's a great place for raising a family. I mean, to be honest, that's what brought us here, was the great reputation of the SCUC ISD school district. And so, but what keeps us here is the people we've met. I mean, just all the great neighbors and friends and people, not just in Cibolo, but the surrounding communities, in Schertz and Selma, of course, and New Braunfels. And so, we just, we felt like it's a great place to be.
And for a living?
Yep. And for a living, I work for WellMed. I've been employed there for coming up on 10 years now. In April of next year, it'll be exactly 10 years. And so I work there as a manager now in the IT department. I have 6 people that report to me. Prior to that, I worked for a company called TPA Benefits, and it was kind of in the healthcare industry. We had a sub company there called Health Portal Solutions. And what I did there was build web portals for the health insurance industry, mainly TPAs and health plans and hospital systems, like Florida Hospital out in Florida. We had First Care up in Austin. So I got my, experience working in the IT world at that startup, and then moved over to WellMed after that. So, but I love working there. It's a great company. We're growing. We're looking to hit 5 million members within the next couple of years. And so it's a stable, company. We have clinics all over Texas and Florida, and looking to get into some other states as well. So
I'm currently retired, trying to make a decision if this is first retirement or retirement. My wife, just to bring her in the mix, she is a retired school teacher, 38 years of teaching. 11 of those were in the Seguin School District. The remainder of it was over at SCUC ISD. She was a student of Schertz Cibolo School District and a graduate of Clemens. I'm a graduate of San Marcos. Go Rattlers! And that nomadic spirit brought us all the way from San Marcos to Cibolo. We have the opportunity to live in the very house she was born and raised in. We've raised our sons in that very same house, and we're watching our grandson grow up. He's the 8th generation Cibolian here with us. So it's just cool stuff. You're asking why do I want to run? It's just a sense of service. It really is. It's kind of a question I ask people when they have a question. So be careful what you're asking for. So we were annexed about 2 or 3 years ago. Finally became part of the Cibolo city limits. We had signed on to the family. We had signed our property onto a non-annexation agreement, and that had expired. So finally had the opportunity to help serve in Cibolo. When I was on the school board, obviously we worked within the school district, so I had the opportunity to serve there. Some of the hard lessons you have to learn are how to sit down and shut up and learn. And I was able to gain just a fantastic education from all the folks I was associated with while I was serving on the school board. With that, was able to learn good governance. I saw good governance. I saw good team leadership. I think we did a lot of good. That was a massive growth period in our school district. For Schertz, Cibolo, Selma, Universal City, all of us were just we were really becoming the magnet for all of the population wanting to come over here and join our family. So
lived in Cibolo, I'll say originally 2005. The Air Force brought us here. We were here for 4 years, kept our house. PCS or military move in 2009. Went to California, then Las Vegas Air Force brought us back here in 2013. Actually, it was the one time I asked the Air Force, needs of the Air Force, what do you have in San Antonio? I want to come back. And knew that this was going to be our retirement spot. So came back here in 2013, been here since. So, subtract 4 years off that, roughly 13 years. You guys are making me do math in public. What was the other part of that question? You said how long we've been here.
Yeah. How long have you lived in Cibolo, and what do you do for a living?
Yeah. So for a living, currently work for City San Antonio, the deputy to the director of the Military and Veteran Affairs Department. Basically, our job is to protect Joint Base San Antonio. We can do all the advocacy things that those in uniform are not allowed to do by law. So going and doing legislative pushes, things of that nature, working with other municipalities for compatible land use, compatible development. The military is not against development. They just want it to be compatible with the missions that they currently have and the ones they think that could be coming along the line. So things that don't threaten flying safety, ground training out at Camp Bullis, any of the training going on at Lackland, and then a little bit of a business development side, trying to find those missions that maybe are looking to move from somewhere else, bring them to San Antonio, but at the same time working with the leadership at Joint Base San Antonio to make sure we're not inviting a bunch of stuff that they can't support, or I should say, we don't get to invite them, that we're not advocating for things to come here, and then Joint Base San Antonio says, whoa, we don't have enough capacity, so we stay engaged with them day-to-day basis.
I've lived in Cibolo for about 10 years. I was stationed here, came from Korea, came to Fort Sam Houston. And at that time, I was in the Army, and I completed my 20-plus years, February 2020. What I'm doing now is a lot. A lot. I am, of course, involved in, so much, you guys. I want to be a beacon of change so bad. I'm involved in the Global Chamber of Commerce here in San Antonio. I serve as the Director of Veterans Affairs for Dominion Strategies, and as well as for the Chamber. I'm board member. I also have my own, I'm a co-owner in an insurance agency here called Blended Legacy Life Insurance Agency. And we teach people how to, the importance of insurance, give people transition options when they leave the military, as well as kind of help people understand how to make their babies their banks. Instead of giving to your kids all the time, teach them how to invest and how to use their life insurance policies to earn cash value. So I do that. I'm also owner of a company called Dreams Out Loud. It's a mentorship program for young girls who want to go into the medical industry. And I connect them with a mentor, if you would, and we do it via Zoom. And they can, that mentor gives realistic expectations of what to expect in that career field for, for the future. And then on top of all that, I do a little acting, and which is why I'll be missing that event on the 14th. Is I have a show in Killeen, and I'll be playing a character by the name of Miss Eva. And it's a Christian play, so it's called Married, Single, Divorce, and everything in between. So it's something I've been working on, for a while. I've been working with that production company for a while. So that's what I do, and I'm a mother. On top of that. So that's what I've been doing.
Why are you running for mayor?
I am running to have a positive impact on the community and to be a voice for citizens, because I think oftentimes the way our structure is with the 7 councilmen, they want a unified voice, a unified city voice. And I'm running to help us have better managed growth, public safety, which is a huge thing for me, the train track crossing, the water situation, the development that's going to occur south of FM 78. So managed growth, public safety, those are really the two of my top priorities, and to be part of a solution. We need solutions to these issues. So.
Okay. Well, I was elected to serve, the citizens of District 5 back in 2018. And since coming on board as the District 5 city councilman, I've worked with Mayor Boyle to help establish a great working relationship with the city of Schertz, with their mayors and their council members. And, through that partnership, we were able to partner with Fasken Oil, which is the developer that built Cibolo Crossing over there, where you see Santikos and several other businesses over there. But we were able to widen and expand Cibolo Valley Drive from I-35 down to Old Wiederstein. And I feel like that our relationship with the city of Schertz and with that developer, really helped us improve that road. It was, in bad shape. It was just a 2-lane road. And so it definitely wasn't representative of the current size of our city. And so we also did a Chapter 380 agreement with Santikos to help them open up their doors in Cibolo and to thrive as a business, a value community partner. They do a lot for the city and the community. They're always there to support us and donate, when it comes to Cibolo Fest, be a sponsor. They do a lot of food drives there with the New Braunfels Food Bank. That oftentimes they'll host events there and that we're able to help them out with. We also passed an ordinance to allow them to serve adult beverages until 1 a.m., which helped them compete with their neighboring Evo Entertainment, right across the street from Santikos. So we also did a 380 agreement with AW Texas to allow them to thrive in the Toyota transmissions factory business, where they employ over 900 people, and it's a $400 million factory. And so that will be a main driver for our property tax revenue in years to come. Also, city leadership representation on the AEMPO has, through that relationship, secured funding for phase 2 of the 1103 expansion project. This project had been stuck in neutral since 2014, and we expect the contractor, Hunter Construction, to break ground next month. Once complete, we'll have a fantastic brand new 5-lane road with bike lanes and sidewalks included on both sides, all the way from I-35 down to 78. And since joining council in 2018, we've welcomed a lot of exciting new businesses to Cibolo, including Santikos, as I mentioned earlier, Magnolia Pancake House, the Willie's Ice House, Living Spaces Furniture Store, Kindling, the Rooted Fork, Firestone Tires, the YMCA, Sip It, Wing It, Lone Star Lounge, Big Hops Bar, Mama Mills, Jamaican restaurant. And we've got a 46th Street Pizza, a Whataburger, H-E-B, Buffalo Wild Wings, P. Terry's are all coming soon to Cibolo. So the growth is coming. And in 2020, during the height of the pandemic, we borrowed $7.5 million on the bond market for under 1%. That money is going to the reconstruction of Cibolo Valley Drive from Old Wiederstein to 1103. That project kicked off in August of this year and is expected to take about 1 year to complete. In 2019, I voted against a property tax rate increase. In 2020, we lowered our tax rate, and in 2021 and 2022, we kept it the same. We took a $28 million annual budget and brought it up to about $52 million. This increased revenue will help Cibolo pay our portion of 1103 expansion phase 2, as well as fixing 9 other roads to start. And so also in 2018, we had 6 residential housing zoning types. We reduced them now, and now the smallest lot which can be built is a 1/4 acre for new housing. Our focus is on attracting quality home builders that will build quality housing in Cibolo.
I'm running for mayor, not against anyone. There is another one of these educational points that happen in my life. You come across good quotes, good phrases that just stay with you. And one of these is surround yourself by people who make you a better person. Hopefully, over the years, I can become one of those people that you don't mind being around, and maybe I'll stumble across something that'll help you in your future life. But there's been a lot of people that I've truly learned from, and part of that is the respect that I need to give this job I know it's not a full-time job, and I don't have any intention of making mayor a full-time job. You're volunteering to do these things, but the level of respect that this responsibility takes on is first and foremost in my mind. After that, again, we talked about it earlier. If you see any ego come from me, call me on it. I checked that at the door. My daddy and my mama helped check that. Many years ago. If there's a job to do, you just step up and do it. Get it done. You can spend 10 minutes getting the job done, or 45 minutes wasting oxygen over it. Which one are you going to do? So let's just step up and do it. I think I have a good grasp of the history of Cibolo, how Cibolo came to be, what made Cibolo good, what made Cibolo desirable. We can incorporate those qualities of our history into how do we grow Cibolo into a sustainable city. We don't want to be a bedroom community. We have a lot of bedrooms. We have a lot of great citizens here, but we also have to be able to grow. We had the industries that supported Cibolo in 1900, 1930, 1950. Now we need the industries that will support Cibolo 100 years from now.
Still have a passion to serve, lead the public. I don't know if that's an extension of having been in the military. That's serving in a different regard. You take an oath, and that understand that may result in giving your life for your country. Not to sound over dramatic about that, but that's something we all do. And it doesn't matter your career field. Somebody say, well, so and so's career field, they're in personnel. That doesn't. What's big? There have been folks of all career fields that have given their life. Iraq, Afghanistan, go back to Vietnam. Pick a conflict or a war, and if you're in that threat zone, you're under threat. You may not be a door kicker, if you want to use that phrase. You may not be dropping iron from 30,000 feet, but that doesn't make you any less at risk to the threat. Those threats, thankfully, don't exist at the local level, but taking that leadership experience, that drive, and continuing on after having served on city council, it's a different role. I mean, as a mayor in Cibolo, you don't vote unless there's a tiebreaker situation. So it's not about the power of the vote. It's about taking those other 7 council members who have sometimes the same opinions, sometimes different opinions. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, Kevin, being a councilman yourself. And trying to stay on that path that you've charted. If you've come up with a strategic plan, are you staying on path, or you just have it up on the shelf? A plan on the shelf isn't really doing any good unless you're just, by luck, you're all working towards it, but not cognizant of it. Go back occasionally and check that plan. And that's, those things I want to do as mayor, and that's what's driving me, is to keep Cibolo going forward, keep that momentum going.
Why? It's so funny you mentioned, earlier about people kind of coming to you and things like that. It was something that I've wanted to do, but I don't know if you know, but when you're in uniform, that's not something you can do. They like for us to stay out of politics, local politics, any politics. But, I do what you do, watch the city council meetings, and I noticed that I felt like there was a lack of somebody like me, and a community builder. Like you said, there's lots of shenanigans that you see. It's almost like a comedy sometimes because of the different personalities. And those are people things, right? And it's okay to have people things because we're people making decisions about our community. So I felt that I could come and be a bridge builder, community mender, and be the voice of all people, because as you know, Cibolo has grown significantly in the last 20 years. I've only seen 10 years of that growth because I've only been here for 10 years, but even in that, 35,000 people, that's a big number, right? And I don't think that it's fair that everybody is not equally represented. Not every voice is represented. And that's partially because that's the people's issue as well, right? People not seeking out information because just like I watch the city council, they can too, and get to know what's going on. But I live in the District 2 area, and I had no idea of all the things that was going on for Cibolo businesses, and until I started going down there and visiting and hearing all the things that was going on, all the unfair things that I felt were going on at the time. And then, of course, you peel the onion back, you listen, right? You research for yourself and you listen, and you peel the onion back and you see that, it's kind of bigger than that. And I think it's an easy issue to solve. And I do think that we have a couple people on the ballot that would ensure that the same things that I am, that all voices are counted, and heard. You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to, take the advice that's given. You need to be able to make a good decision, and bring your council together to ensure that everybody's kind of looking at everything from every aspect possible.
What are the most important challenges facing the city, and how do you think these challenges could be addressed?
Water, public safety, and how we manage growth and our tax base, diversifying our tax base. You want me to break them out one by one? Water is going to be an interesting thing because Cibolo did not get their water rights renewed. And so they are in negotiations with SSLGC for their partnerships, Shirt Cibolo or Shirt Seguin local SSLGC local.
The water people.
Yes, the water company, the water, like not the retail side of it, but the wholesale side of it is bringing up a water line, and Cibolo is going to have to make a decision whether they use their relationship with Shirts. They have also a local government to spend millions of dollars to own a portion of this line, to have the water rights for that line. So those are some deep discussions we're going to have to make resolution on. And I think that our relationship with Shirts has improved greatly. And I think these are, I don't know what the best solution is except to have very good, clear outcomes established and budgets for it. First responders, I think we're growing. You had talked about, the train getting hit, and fortunately we haven't had any really any serious derailments or any chemical derailments. But I think that part of our area, Guadalupe County, it would be nice if we had a STRAC type response, or we had they call them CERT responses, which I believe Guadalupe County has, but we could, band together and beef that up, that citizens emergency response team type of environment. I'm not saying that I have the solution to that. That's the emergency management protocol, and then you support them. What do you need? Where do we bring value to the citizens? But we also don't have an expense for that, or a minimal expense, and FEMA kind of helps us with that, as well as the Texas Department of Emergency Management. And the growth, I think that understanding that we are in an environment of Euclidean zoning, and how we are going to manage our development codes from here on out. And just really, that's kind of my special interest, is defining that and making sure that we have it clearly defined.
Well, I think some of the most important challenges that we're experiencing right now has to do with improving the roads. As I mentioned earlier, we did, kick off an $8.5 million project to completely resurface Cibolo Valley Drive. That was one of the major things that the citizens of Cibolo would come to me with and say, what are you going to do about Cibolo Valley Drive? It's a mess. Every time I drive on it, it feels like I need a Jeep to get through it. And so, we're already making progress there. And of course, 1103 expansion, dealing with the roads and the conditions that they're in is, one of my top 3 priorities. Other than that, also bringing more businesses to Cibolo is somewhat of a challenge, because of those circumstances I mentioned earlier, as far as the 1103 situation and getting that project started. And one of the things that we've been dealing with that's, I guess something that kind of happened to us, not necessarily something we set out to go down, but we have a lot of growth going on in what's called the ETJ, which is the extraterritorial jurisdiction, which is just east of Cibolo. And so we do have 3 neighborhoods going in right now. And that was an area of Cibolo, an area next to Cibolo that we chose not to annex back in 2018. And so that decision, I believe, is coming back to haunt us because we are having a lot of neighborhoods being built over there in that area. And it is a challenge to us to be able to come up with a plan for that area as far as servicing them for fire. We do provide fire service to our ETJ. We do have a contract with Guadalupe County to provide that service. And so that is a challenge as far as what are we going to do in the future? Are these neighborhoods going to be annexed? Or are we just going to come up with a plan for them for their fire service only? But either way, we're looking at 1,250 new houses, and so those will be folks that'll be traveling on 1103 and other roads, going to our schools, spending money at our new HEB, at our Walmart. So there will be some pros and cons to that situation. Another challenge that we're looking at is finding a thoroughfare to get through from 35 to I-10. I know that you were talking in jest earlier about the toll road, and so that's something we were faced with 4 or 5 years ago. We were staring down the barrel of a gun. That was it was on the table. It was something that was inching towards happening. Since then, with working with the AMPO, we've secured funding from TxDOT to like I said, expand 1103, and so that kind of puts us in a position as to where we have a good road. Once it's done, we'll have a nice road to get us from 35 to 78, which is halfway there, to I-10. But I know Mayor Boyle has worked with our congressman and several others, and at least had some preliminary discussions about potentially working with the city of Schertz and coming up with a road that would work for both of us, to connect 78 to 10 that we can all drive on, in addition to 1518, which is in, Schertz city limits. But, that's something that, if elected, I will, pick up the ball and run with, and continue on those discussions that Mayor Boyle has already started.
The most important challenges are really just, let's just start with the team. We all have to have a team. We have to come in with a team attitude. We all have our personalities, our characteristics, that sort of thing. But really is how do we gather together, create this one focus. We don't have to agree that we're going to take this certain road. The old ancient saying is all roads lead to Texas. So if we're not on the same road, are we going to the same town? Okay, that's fine. We might just take a little bit different road than the one I want to use, but are we still getting there? So it's really, I'm seeing some of that now with our leadership, our government leadership, our administrative staff leadership. We need to continue building on that, and we need to have that to be the sole reason we are there. As to how do we, as a team, are we focused on not only where we're going, are we going in the right direction? We just start there. So that's the first thing that I hope I can help with is just a good, clear focus of how we get there. Then when we have good, positive discussions, we positive. Mm-hmm. Be that person that others want to be around, so that you can help each other. If some smile carries a lot more weight than a frown does, so you're not covering anything up, you're not being false about anything, but you're just being positive about where we are. From that point, yes, we do certainly need to focus on our downtown infrastructure, our downtown supporting our downtown businesses, and respecting our downtown residents who are still there. We always want people living in downtown Cibolo, but we want a lot of foot traffic in Cibolo, in downtown Cibolo. We do have some good services right now with the H-E-B coming in, Walmart, CVS. Those are the kinds of services that our community does need. But we need other types of jobs, manufacturing, and that type of industry that will draw just long-term, coin a phrase, call it viability. You can have a career in Cibolo.
One challenge, definitely roads and infrastructure. That's there are things way in the past, decisions made, lower tax rates, which is sounds great on the surface, but if you cut too deep on that sounds great at the time. People notice it maybe in their tax bill. Maybe it's tens of dollars, maybe it's $100 a year. Whatever those the savings are. But the flip side of that is you have to be cognizant that's revenue you're not bringing in to build roads and put the infrastructure in place that would support economic development. So there's got to be a balance there. So we're paying for that now. The Cibolo Valley Drive's under reconstruction and when I was on council, voted for that certificate of obligation to pay for that. City had to go back and bring a little more money to the table to that. But sometimes that's what happens. Costs now, and especially with inflation, those costs go up. So the money you set aside or you said you would spend is not enough, months to a year later. There were also 9 other, I'll call them city roads within the districts that were to be covered by some of that money. And my understanding is those are still going to go forward. But Cibolo Valley Drive is important. That'll, I think, also spawn some economic development. People probably have been avoiding that road because of the condition. So when you do that, maybe that doesn't place you or take you by another business somewhere downtown that, I need to stop in here. I need to go get something at the phone store, or let me stop in here and get a burger. If you're avoiding those spots because of the road, whether you meant to or not, you could be hurting economic development, and then that's an impact on our sales tax, right? So it's a cascading event. And the infrastructure, that's going to be key, especially with some of the areas south of 78 and where water rights or CCN rights are, and some of the work that's still being done to try to iron that out. Because once you have those servicing rights, then you start your plan on putting that infrastructure in place that will spawn development along FM 78 or more development, and then out along I-10 as well. Selma, as you guys got a great spot here on I-35 and that frontage. Cibolo doesn't have much 35 frontage. Basically where Cibolo Crossing is it. And that's just a fact of life. But I-10 could be, I'm not going to say it would be the equivalent of Selma and I-35, but that would be definitely a place to develop. I know it's going to come, and with that comes that sales tax, potentially maybe hotel occupancy tax. That's something I'd love to do. It's part of the strategic plan, but something I would want to do anyhow. Because, again, just like a plan sitting on the shelf that's not being acted on, a hotel occupancy tax that can't be leveraged isn't generating any revenue for you. It's just there. And all those things, maybe with that increase in sales tax, you can lower your property tax rate. That's another issue that I've got is property taxes, and a plan I've got or would like to, again, takes council to buy into it, is a residential or a local property exemption on the city portion of the tax. And that would lower your tax basis, maybe lower your tax bill. A lower tax rate, if your values keep going up, even though you have a lower rate, that next year you might actually still have an increase in your overall tax bill. So one way to attack that maybe is to bring that assessment starting point down. And then public safety. I got 18 seconds left here. I see that clock. While I was on council, we definitely pushed to do that market study. That's been accomplished, and this council, to their credit, did bump up, market pay for a lot of the city workers, especially first responders, and we got to keep that going so we don't bleed personnel. And we're the first choice for a lot of other new hire candidates that want to come in because we're competitive in pay and benefits.
Just listening to all of the different council meetings, this UDC that's needing updated. I mean, I guess kind of like in the Army, we have regulations that require updating because they guide specific decisions and, and things like that. So the simple things, start to me at the basics. I do believe that background checks need to happen for all elected officials, right? Thorough background checks, third-party background checks, right? So that we don't get punched in the eye again. And I also believe that in doing that, everything that we do, applying to for a business, to open a business in Cibolo, I mean, I've heard so many complaints on the processes. So that means process improvement needs to take place. And if it's me or, one of the other people that are on the ballot, it needs to be done. Mm-hmm. All of these things need to be done. Process improvement, listen to the people, and act on it, create a plan, strategize, and actually act on it. I mean, like, for example, that UDC thing, they've been talking about that for about 2-3 years now. Still nothing. So who do we hold accountable to make sure that things are done, things are written, things are reviewed, annually, whatever, buy-in, however we choose to do it. Accountability is important. So yeah, that would be the first thing that I would, those small things, because there's bigger pictures, there's committees and things like that where there's smart people, to kind of help bring those ideas to the forefront so that they can be voted on. So generally speaking, just simple things like that.
What would be your top 2 priorities if elected as mayor?
Definitely public health and safety, infrastructure. And the second one would be public health and safety and infrastructure. I mean, let's stay focused. We have to get first things first. And right now that's our weakest point. We have a lot of great things going on in Cibolo. They don't need to be fixed. But public health and safety is definitely needing the attention.
Well, my top 2 priorities, and I mean, I have 3 top priorities, but they remain the same as they were in 2018. Like I said earlier, I'm only halfway done, compared to as far as what I set out to do. But my top 2 priorities are to fix the roads. We've already talked about 2 of them, Cibolo Valley Drive and 1103. We also have funding set aside to fix 9 other roads in Cibolo. So there's more roads than just those 2. We have a lot of connector roads that that bring people from their neighborhoods over to one of those 2 main roads. And so fixing the majority of Cibolo roads is a very important priority of mine, and also bringing more great businesses to Cibolo. And that's not a knock on the existing businesses. I love every business we have in Cibolo, especially the mom and pop shops, the small businesses that people started. But to bring more choice, to Cibolo, we are the city of choice. And so to bring, just new, unique type of businesses. I'm not looking for a carbon copy of Shirts or another neighboring city where we have a McDonald's on every corner and, just that same sort of, big box type of situations. So I'm looking for, the type of restaurants that you won't necessarily see very often, things like Texadelphia, things like P.F. Chang's or Torchy's Tacos, that type of stuff, the new and unique type of offering. And so I think that, we do have a lot of opportunity. We're open for business. We have a lot of room to rent over by Cibolo Crossing, and like I said earlier, on 1103. So the space is available now. I think it's just a matter of going out there and speaking with the business owners and getting them interested in setting up shop in Cibolo. Because right now we receive about 75% of our annual budget from property taxes. Mm-hmm. And so to me, I mean, that ratio is probably the opposite of Selma, Kevin. So I'm looking to have that a little bit closer to 50-50, where we're getting about 50% of our annual revenue from sales taxes, and then the other 50, of course, from property taxes, and then other fees like permitting fees and things of that nature when a new development's going up, impact fees, things like that.
Teamwork. Okay, not all teams agree that you're calling the right play, but that's the play we're calling, and teamwork. as I was writing, I've been answering a lot of questions to different groups that are willing to let candidates for whatever office you're trying to run. Just they want to get to know you, and they want the opportunity for other people to get to know you. So one of the thoughts that came to me is no one voice is more important than anybody else, no matter how loud or how meek it is. And there's no one voice that's less important than anybody else. We all need to give each other a chance to speak and a chance to listen. Life's lessons to me were we have 2 eyes and 2 ears for a reason, 1 mouth for a reason. And what do we gain our education from? Is our ears and our eyes. So we need to all use those first. That's Terry Hines' philosophy, for whatever that's worth. Use those first, and then hard lessons I've learned in life that lead to this are 95% of what you think you need to say doesn't need to be said. It really doesn't. So if you're going to say anything, take your time, make it worthwhile what you're saying. Use good words, because people are going to remember what you said. And if you were using vulgar and crude words, that's what you're going to be remembered by. And my daddy's not going to be remembered by that, and my wife's family won't be remembered by that. So just good positive leadership.
Well, we've actually I've already covered them. One would be property tax relief, and the other would be public safety, and that's the competitive pay and benefits. That you just haven't talked with folks, and when we used to have shred day and talk with first responders that were there, and one of the not the chief, but somebody had been there a while, and we get folks they come in, they get some great training. And it's not a reflection on the leadership of the fire department or if that same scenario over in the police department. It's a matter of the pay and the benefits. They have young families. They don't even move where they're currently living. They'll commute farther in a lot of cases. It is for better pay and benefits, but sometimes they're giving up seniority or even responsibility, and they're being paid more, and that's a sacrifice they're willing to take. I don't fault them for that at all. But that goes to, in the military, we talk about unit cohesion. You get used to the crew that you have. What somebody's going to do, the tactics that you're employing, in responding to a fire and emergency, and you just learn that person. I imagine you two sitting here have learned one another's mannerisms. You feed good off one another, take one another's lead, cues. And when you bring somebody new into that, it takes some time to get back to that same place. You're going to have turnover. People are going to retire. People are going to move on to something else. But when it happens a lot more than what's probably traditional or normal, that then could be a negative impact to public safety, because somebody's not responding or they're not used to how somebody's moving in that particular scenario. So getting back to better pay and benefits to keep who you have, they gaining experience, and then when you attract the best of the best new candidates, they come in, they've got a great mentor and training that's already there, who knows the lay of the land and has great leadership skills, and it's just it's a great machine after that. You're always going to have new people, but having those seasoned veterans, in this case, around on the police and fire is important. And it also goes to the city employees. I view a lot of folks in public works as first responders. They did a lot during the pandemic, having to go out, clean, assist the uniform first responders. So you can have all the great programs and strategic plan in place, but you don't have the people there to put those things into effect. What good is that plan if they're leaving or not wanting to come because your pay and benefits? So, to me, all that ties in.
Wow, there's a lot going on, and you know what? I don't even know how to answer that right now.
Okay.
I don't know. There's a lot going on, but there's other elected officials that sit to my right and left, and that's something we would talk about. Preparing an OML, like we do in the military.
Yeah.
And what we're going to tackle first together.
The city just completed its budget cycle. If anything, what would you have done differently or like to have seen done differently?
Well, they just completed it on Tuesday. I think that I would have liked to have seen them try to lower the rate, make an attempt to lower the rate. You know, we have an increase in the value of homes. We have an increase in the number of homes. I don't even think there was an attempt made in the budget talks that I listened to, and it wasn't even, can we lower this tax rate?
You know, one thing I was kicking around is to do a homestead exemption for the property owners in Cibolo. You know, that's something that we talked about. You know, we decided not to pull the trigger on it this particular year because right now we're in catch-up mode. Last year, we decided to bring our police officers and firefighters up to market as far as what they're getting paid for their salary. We were able to do some really nice bonuses for our first responders. And this year, we decided to catch up city staff. So we got everybody caught up to market. And so doing that, you know, cost, of course, a lot of money, you know, to pay, you know, our employees what they're worth. And so, you know, we value our employees in Cibolo. We value the contribution that they bring to the table, and we don't want to be a revolving door where somebody comes and gets their training and their start and, you know, in Cibolo, a couple of years on their resume, and then moves off to another city to make more money. So we want to be able to keep the people we have. And so that was, you know, one of the things that we had to, you know, to make sure to take care of with the amount of tax revenue that we did get this year. It was we kept the rate the same, so we didn't necessarily you know, raise the rate in order to achieve the $52 plus million budget. But that was really just a product of the appraisals and you know, where properties are coming in at, you know, not just in Guadalupe County, but you know, that's where the majority of our people live. I think we have a little bit of space in Bexar County, but yeah, the majority of it comes from Guadalupe. But you know, I think a homestead exemption is a good idea, and it's something that, you know, I really want to push for next year. And so that would, you know, I think we have flexibility to go, you know, up to 15%. I'm not saying, you know, we smash the gas and go that high in year one, but I could see somewhere between 3 and 5% as far as, you know, and that's just that only applies to the city tax portion of somebody's property. But I think doing that would really assist and help, you know, people that are invested in Cibolo. Because if you're a homeowner in Cibolo, then, you know, most of the time you're here to stay. You know, you're not necessarily renting and, you know, and just here temporarily. So I really want to give back, and I really want to help, you know, ease the burden on the homeowners. And so, yeah, so to answer your question, that's something I wish we could have moved forward with this particular year. But we weren't able to pull the trigger on it. But, you know, the way it works, as you know, Kevin, as being a councilman, we have to do public hearings, and we would have to go to a special election if it ends up being, you know, a lot more money than we pulled in last year with that same rate. And so we're looking to kind of offset some of that with a homestead exemption.
So no matter how nicely you say things, and know how, you know, truly from the heart and truly helpful you say things, it's going to make somebody mad because you don't know what somebody has just dealt with. That may be what is helping them see something in a negative way. So none of these comments are made in any kind of a negative way. We need to be an educated council, which means you just start with the meeting. You get your agenda. You have to spend time in your evenings and understand your agenda. If you have questions, you forward those to the city manager, who can bring the answers to the meeting. Same thing we did with the school board. I had to learn that. You know, so you just study it, ask your questions. The answers will come to you. You don't use meetings to create more questions. There will be more questions come up, but you don't use your meetings to create questions. When someone is asked for their professional advice, opinion, direction that they've taken, direction they plan on taking, that's the person that needs to answer the question. And we take their word for their word, even if it's one of our paid professionals that's giving you the answer, then that person is speaking for the city. and then that's what we hold them to. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit here, but we just have to start there. In a nutshell, you look at all these things and say, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, everything's running great, but there's always a forest fire somewhere. So how do you start putting out the fire? Where do you stomp first? You just have to figure out where do you want to stomp first and put that little fire out. And before you know it, you've really done a good job of putting out all the fires.
Would have talked more about the tax rate to potentially lower it or go for the no new revenue rate. Not having been part of those discussions myself, I'm not, I shouldn't say privy, not aware of what they did discuss. Be honest with you, I did not go watch the videos or that were posted, but I would like to have heard more of why not take that rate down or go for the no new revenue rate. But again, that's part of that transparency to the public, so that if you do go with the rate that's currently proposed, which is slightly below the max or the voter allowed rate, or what are you going to give the public out of that? Is it going to help take down your debt service? How are you going to? Because then that sets you up. Bless you. Sets you up better maybe in the future when you need to issue debt. You've taken it, your own personal debt, credit cards, all those things. Managing your own money, but manage it at the city level. But that's something I would have definitely liked to talk more about, and even if it took a drag down, knockout, fight, and a lot of folks, maybe it only mattered to, tens of dollars or maybe $100 a year, but it's their money. And would they have been willing to give that up if you're showing this is what we're gonna spend it on something, this is how it's gonna benefit you? And again, back to the voters. Okay, that makes sense to me. Just make sure those plans are actually put into place. If it's a bond, if it's a certificate of obligation, those things. Are you actually going to go do something with it in a timely fashion? So that's where I would have been with the budget, at least on the tax rate portion.
Because I don't have all the ins and outs of why those decisions were made, and I have not I haven't taken a deep dive into that. That is, I don't know. I don't know what I would have done differently. Yeah, I don't know. I just trust that the elected folks that we have made a good decision for the greater good.
I have two questions from the Downtown Business Alliance. The first question is, how can the city council be involved in helping the Old Town area grow?
Okay. So the city council should be following its master plan. And I think that the city council's responsibility for business development is in, what would be economic development, and that would be to ensure that the fire hydrants are correct, where there's pedestrian crossings, that they're safe and well lit. I would like to see a better sidewalk, over the tracks, the railroad tracks. Those are some things that we can do as a government. But aside from that, that's an economic development. That's a private entity issue.
Well, I know that years ago, I think it was like 2004, I believe. I'm not sure the exact year, but I know at one point, Old Town was designated as commercial, and so all the people that that live in homes in the downtown Cibolo area were all of a sudden changed. Their zoning was changed to a commercial property, and so in doing that, it brought a lot of businesses into the area. There's a ton of homes along Main Street that are getting purchased and then turned into businesses. Like Ron Henry, for instance, he's a friend of mine, lives in my neighborhood, and he has a business, right there called Just Focus Real Estate, right there on Main Street. he did the same thing that, Jamie and others are doing, just buying what was once a residential house and turning it into a business. And so there's a tattoo parlor that just opened up. There was a claymation type of, a place where you come and, paint clay for your kids at one point, color clay, I think it was called. But it's transforming. And so, right now there's a lot of growing pains with that transformation. And so the people of Cibolo, the citizens, they love it. They love going to Old Main. They love going to Ernie's, the new bar that just opened up. They love going to 1908. They love coming out, listening to some live music, grabbing a glass of wine or a beer. It's becoming a really nice destination, similar to Greene or, Fredericksburg or some of these other quaint, cute little Texas towns that have a lot of history and that have something that's unique to their individual cities. And so, I want to help that, keep that same history. I want to keep that alive, and I want it to thrive, and I want there to be more businesses, in the downtown area. I know that the cash store was just torn down about a month or so ago. And so that was a neat, historic landmark in Cibolo. But I understand that there's plans there to build a new business, maybe kind of a boutique type shop where people can do some shopping, similar to the mill. And so, whatever I can do to assist the business owners down in that area, I want to help them, and help them thrive as businesses, as valued partners in our city.
All right, so I'm not going to speak to funding and those sorts of things because I just don't have the grasp of it exactly how the council can be involved and effective in funding particular issues. I did have the opportunity to attend the Business Alliance meeting just the other day, and there's some really good ideas. They got some outward thinkers. They're business owners. They're generating their own way of life, which goes right back to old Cibolo. There's a job to be done. Okay, well, who's going to do it? Today, my name is somebody. So this is what I'm going to do. And just have a lot of respect for people that open their own business and take those chances. It all comes back to how do we have a respect for Cibolo? How do we have a respect for our history? Can we see those same bright lights from the current business owners? It's certainly not, well, I don't want to go to a negative. It's certainly about just listening to people, visiting with folks. That's a great idea. Let's put our heads together, see where we can get together like this. If it wasn't for the downtown district, would there be a Cibolo? Not really. It was farmers and ranchers that went to town, visiting with the proprietors. Yeah, and back in the day, you actually went to town, and today we jokingly say town came to us. Yeah, but it's not my idea that has to be important. You have to have. I'm going to say it has to be the attitude of you have a great idea. Is it viable, or is it the right idea now? And it's just really a matter of being approachable and being able to work with each other.
Well, we could look at other economic incentives. We have there's things the state allows, but typically they seem to be used or looked at for lack of a better phrase, big box or big, like a city has a, Chapter 380 agreement with Santikos, for example, one with Ison, Texas, out off of I-10, one with HEB. What about smaller businesses? Are there, and the kind that would fit within the profile for downtown? To at least have that discussion, and what's the employment they're going to bring? What would be the benefit to the city as well? And maybe there are other tools or incentives. I mean, the Economic Development Corporation has is it Business Improvement Grant? I forget the exact name of it, but it helps out, for facades. And some of those businesses have thankfully been able to benefit from it. But there are probably some other tools out there that could benefit, spur development, if you will. The other things, again, that fit within the character of Old Town. And maybe there are things that benefit some of those existing businesses as well to help them expand. There are things that help out their workforce. You could always talk about public transportation, for example, to help out workforce, the commute that they may have. So I'm open to whatever, the things that could make sense for them if they were to bring things forward. But then at the same time, what can the city bring forward and say, hey, we've researched this, our economic development department, how does this help you? Would this help you? We think it would. So it's got to be a two-way street. You listen to what they bring in, but at the same time, just don't wait for them to come to you. Approach them. That's how I would try to tackle that. There's also called the Old Town Overlay. That was an idea from, gosh, I'm trying to think how long ago. I think even before my involvement with the city. So is that harming or helping downtown? If that's harming them, how is that something the city needs to look at to remove or replace with something else? But again, got to get that input from that alliance or individual businesses, whatever the case may be.
Wow. So marketing is important. I believe that there needs to be a face out there. Somebody needs to be strategizing on how to attract people to our city, to, spend their resources, have a good time, and also come down and open other types of businesses. I think we need to be accepting of others and other types of businesses in the downtown that kind of represent what our city looks like. And I think that, diversity always wins, guys, in my opinion. And I always bring it back to the military because the military is the most diverse organization on the planet. And it's also the most successful business on the planet. And so that there's a lot of things that we could take from organizations like that. And diversity is one of those things. I love the concept of what Old Town businesses are, doing with the murals and kind of trying to keep the small city feel, with the archways and things like that and the art. I just think that we need to be more welcoming. We need to improve our marketing strategies for the city of Cibolo, bring people to Cibolo because of that small city feel. And, just like when I was stationed in Korea before I came here, they were talking about Cibolo.
What?
Yes.
In Korea?
City of choice, yep. So if you're going to get stationed in, Fort Sam, Houston, you need to check out Cibolo. The schools, the small town feel, they just had a whole list of recommendations as to why, which is why I ended up here, primarily still high school. For my kids. But I think it's that simple. It's the marketing strategy. Somebody out speaking for our city, bringing things back to our city, a team of people, and using all that venues that we have. And like I said, the military channel, so to speak, is, was how I found out about Cibolo. But there's other ways too,
What is the one thing that you have seen on a main street in a small town you'd like to implement in Old Town Cibolo?
I mean, when you look at our main street, especially the area just past LaGrange where we have 1908 and the Kindling and the Rooted Fork, and across the street, it has that hometown feel. It has those homes. And those older structures. Ernie's, when you look across the tracks at Ernie's, it just feels right. The architecture is right. So I don't think we can really compare, or it wouldn't be my desire to compare another town to Cibolo. Cibolo is itself, and I like what they're doing, and I would like to see us embrace that part of our history. So I don't really have a big suggestion that way.
All right. So something I've seen on a main street in a downtown. Well, let me think about that. We already have the bars, and that's a pretty common situation down there. I'm trying to think what I've seen on a main street. Maybe just a nice place for families to come and do like recreation activities. whether that's, kind of a bowling type of situation, just something fun, maybe like an axe throwing type of place,
Yeah.
just more cool stuff to do, when you're downtown, activities, you know what I mean? Just something that's kind of family friendly. Cause right now, I mean, we have restaurants, which are, of course good for kids, but when the restaurants close and it just kind of becomes a bar scene, after 9, there's really not a whole lot to, for families to do down there, and even during the day. So if we had some sort of activities, maybe like a place that would also have beer for people that are interested, but maybe just kind of a recreation type area, that people can come and enjoy themselves.
I'll do a little plug for my I call her my favorite daughter-in-law, because she is. Yeah, she's my only one, but she's my favorite daughter-in-law. Yeah. And I have a favorite future daughter-in-law as well. Both beautiful women. My favorite daughter-in-law is a fantastic artist, and so we have these discussions and such as that. And I look at her work and say, "My God, I wish I had just a thumb full of that talent." So yesterday's discussion was about some murals and such as that. I'm not. Don't you appreciate when you go through old little bitty towns and you see the old Rexall drug store, painted mural on the side of the brick building and things like that? And wouldn't that be such a great attraction to anybody that has the opportunity to have or expand on a downtown area like we have in Cibolo? Mm-hmm. Part of the EDC conversation I may have, I mean, there's been a lot of master plans. Mm-hmm. And there was a most recent master plan, but something I would like to see, is it viable? Maybe we just need an extension of Main Street. Go to Main Harmon's, turn right, and we just have another road that supports more storefronts, similar to our old storefronts, and just create that. Let San Antonio have Pearl. Let Seguin have what Seguin has. Let San Marcos have what they have. And maybe all we need is another road with more storefronts. And that's what I think. But back to the business alliance, I like the idea of what they're talking about. We'll call it a beautification. One person's art is another person's like question. But art is it's great. I'd love to be able to see that supported in our city. There's some other discussions about entrance to the city and to the entrance to the historic portion of the city and such as that. And it's just discussions that need to go on with that. I'm glad people are thinking.
Well, it'd be tough maybe here with the way the sidewalks are set up. I mean, I know like the mill has ability for a little bit of outdoor seating, but that's just, and I guess in front of Harmon's and Catalana's, of course, in Texas, you're only probably going to get 2 weeks out of the year where it's cool enough you want to sit outside and eat. Being partial to the military, I would like something. I don't know if this really helps them generate business, but you got hometown hero banners. The folks that are currently serving, this weekend is Gold Star Mothers and Families Day. So those are the mothers and the families that have lost family members while in uniform. They've made a sacrifice they didn't ask for. It's a distinction they don't want, but they'll proudly wear that Gold Star pin. There are a lot of military in the city, both active duty, reserve, guard. So you got the triumvirate there, and you have the veterans and the families and the retirees. So they see that, and they appreciate that more. Want to come downtown, you've got a Randolph Air Force Base nearby. They may not even live here, but a lot of those folks like to come downtown for lunch and visit a few of the places. So it's more of a subliminal impact, a good subliminal impact that you can use the space, the poles that you already have. Anything else down there? It's just tough with that street. I mean, you can't really, the way things are lined up, right now, at least from 1918 up towards the railroad tracks, it's kind of tough to do a whole lot of other improvements or to the road to maybe bring something else, do something else in there. And again, open to what those business owners think. That's key. I can come up with something all day long, but I'm not a business owner. So what are the business owners? What are some things that they think maybe there's a chance for partnership? There are other grants out there just beyond what the city can offer that can help make those ideas a reality.
Well, actually, what's being implemented in Old Town Cibolo, I'd like to keep the what they call it in civilian nomenclature, where they're naming, 1908, 1911. That is so. I'd love to keep that. As the businesses populate, let's continue that. I think it makes it special. But what I'd love to see, probably, I've been in so many small towns. And I know probably we won't be able to have something like this here because I grew up in a place called the Netherlands. I lived in a town called Amersfoort. And in Amersfoort, we had like this condo type living where the people lived on top of the stores, and you could smell like the fresh bread. I mean, it was a true small town situation. Like, I guess I would love to see some fresh, some more fresh foods or something like that, to make the smell that smells up that road. And I experienced that also in Portugal. I lived there for a while too. We had a place right outside the gate called the Galone, and they had like cappuccino and kind of like Emily's, but it was like a round shape, and it was right at the end. I don't know. I guess some more character would be nice to see in Cibolo. That kind of focuses on the reason we're called Cibolo. That buffalo is important. The meaning behind that, is important. I'd like to see more of that.
With the recent skyrocketing property values, do you believe in getting tax relief to property owners? If so, how would you do that?
Okay. So as the mayor, you could make a suggestion that they lower the tax rate. And then, really try to promote fiscal responsibility. I mean, past that, a mayor can't really have that agenda. And that would be, if the citizens want some other format, then you need to be supportive of that in terms of how it integrates with your strategic plan. So, I mean, always fiscal responsibility, What do we need to spend our money on?
Yep, I think we touched on this earlier, but yeah, this is a great question. Thank you very much, Kevin. And so, my idea was to do a homestead exemption, and I feel like that's a targeted approach that would really give relief to people that are invested in the city of Cibolo, people that are here to stay, to raise their family. Lowering the rate, that's one way to do it. That would give everybody a break, including, people that are investors that own a ton of rent houses. I'm not saying we have a whole lot of that going on in Cibolo, but I've heard recently of, investors that buy out a whole neighborhood, a brand new neighborhood, brand new homes just being built, and they're all sold to investors. And so what does that equal? That equals renters in 100% of that neighborhood. And so, giving a multi-millionaire, investment firm a tax break, I don't know. I mean, I'd rather give it to people that are families, people that are just trying to make it, trying to raise a kid, work a 9 to 5, and every dollar counts. And so I think that's the best way to do it, is to give a homestead exemption to our homeowners, our citizens.
I'm not the miracle worker with that, so yes, I believe in whatever we can do to help people afford to live in their home. Does the government need everything the government takes? I mean, it's just always the way I'm going to look at things. But the government's not here to take our money and give it to somebody else. So yes, how can we find alternative, we'll call it alternative ways of funding whatever the business is of the government. Government is a necessary evil. You have to have it. Many years ago, our local basically governance was the Grange. We still have Grange Hall, and we still have Grange members in Cibolo, but they weren't really a taxing entity. But that kind of process, we've grown from that to where we are. we have unfortunately had to be chasing, even ourselves, just trying to keep our head above water here in Cibolo and Selma and all of our surrounding areas. So many people have been moving in, and you certainly don't want to do a moratorium. You don't want to, hey, stay away. We don't have room for you right now. I'll send you a letter when we have room for you. You don't want to do that. You want to be able to handle your growth. Listen to Mayor Stosh's interview that y'all sent the link on. I appreciate the fact that they did do away with the S6. I believe it said S5 as well. Mm-hmm. And it's just that kind of growth. I almost stated a quote that my father-in-law would make, but I won't do that.
Okay.
It's kind. It's kind.
Yeah,
it's true. It's absolutely true. But yes, I think there's been some realization of how we got where we are, and how do we have better control of that. We need to continue that. So it sounds like I'm being evasive, but I'm just going to tell you, I don't have that grand plan right now. I don't.
That's fine.
It's just I know we need to be careful of what we're doing. I'm appreciative of the funding that is currently within the city of Cibolo, making the budget meetings and such, listening to Mr. Reed and the council visit, and they are able to fund not only the operating budget but several new projects without having to increase the city tax rate.
So yes, my suggestion would be to have council have a good deep dive on, and by deep dive I mean the pros and the cons, the critical thinking that goes behind it, that goes into it rather, of a local, someplace might call it, you might hear it referred to as a local property exemption, or a local homestead exemption, or residential property homestead exemption. Everybody, we get the one from the state if you qualify for it, apply for it. But municipalities also have the option to have a homestead exemption on your city rate. San Antonio, for example, has one. Their whole city council just this past summer approved to actually increase the benefit, or the exemption benefit, to property tax owners. I think they also added on, if you have the local homestead exemption and you're 65 or over, you get additional. So that was a kind of a bipartisan, approval. And I thought, well, let's look at that, because we know that property taxes, the assessed values have been going up. I believe right now they're capped at 10% is the maximum rate, and I know there have been pushes to maybe try to lower that to a lower increment annually. But aside from that, as I mentioned earlier, your rate might actually drop. The city drops the rate, but if your values have increased, you're not seeing the value of that as much. So what can you do? And that's why you have to get in and look at this. On a median house in Cibolo area is somewhere over $300,000, might be closer to $350,000. Well, what is a $5,000? That's the minimum rate homestead exemption. What does that matter per $100 valuation? Maybe so when you look at it in real dollars, somebody goes, well, geez, is that really, is $25 a year or a month really matter? Whatever that dollar amount comes out to, does that really matter to the homeowner? Well, is that really my call to make? Again, get the facts out there, and you got to beat the street on public hearings. Having 5 people attend, and they're the standard 5 beloved citizens that always come to a meeting, which is fine, but what's your public messaging, the platforms that you have, the way to help get the word out, to generate the input, whether it's online input or having people come good old-fashioned in person, to say, all right, this is what we proposed, and there was a bunch of pitchforks and torches that say no, or people were slamming their shoes down on our desk and saying, yes, do this, even if it only matters a little bit a month. I just want my tax bill. I feel like a victory. You all helped me out and lowered my tax bill a little bit. But part of that due diligence and that diving into it is, this is what's not going to happen with that income or that revenue that's not realized for the city. Are you willing to give this up? It's a neighborhood road that's not going to get repaired, or a new ball field or improvements to a park, swing, whatever it is, you want to, use that funds on. And if your public says, yeah, we're good with that, I want relief on my property tax, then have at it. But if they come back and say, nah, I don't want my child or my grandchild falling off a swing because the chain broke, at a park. I need you guys to make some improvements over there. Well, then let's spend that money back. It comes back to that tangible result that people see something out of their tax dollars, and as Kevin would like to say, not lights on a water tower.
Wow. Yeah. Definitely would like to do that. Because I feel for them, okay, and I feel for anybody that's having to pay increase. And with the way that the market's going, this whole recession thing, it's all kind of I just say historical, like we've seen it before, right? So I would like to explore some type of relief, but I don't know what that looks like. I really don't. I do have a significant other, and where we live, we've watched property go up and and down, and we've even tried to buy different properties and lose out to cash buyers and that type of stuff. But I don't know what that looks like, but God knows I would love to. Who wouldn't want relief?
What is going on with the Old Town Cibolo noise ordinance, and what would you like to see happen?
I wondered why that wasn't from the Old Town Alliance. So from my I've done a little stint on the Planning and Zoning Commission and taken a lot of training towards that, looked at other cities and how they managed it. And so the first I would have to start with identifying, there are pollutions. There's light pollution, there's noise pollution, and then there's regular trash and air pollution and variations of those pollutions. Noise is it is considered a pollution that is harmful to the public. And so when you look around, you can find other cities that have had to deal with noise pollution and how they solve that problem. I don't think Cibolo is special in that regard. I think its citizens deserve a peaceful community. But I also think that people have a certain right to freedom of expression. And balancing that out is, I think, what the council is struggling with doing.
Okay, so the noise ordinance is something that the city of Cibolo has been taking a look at for, coming up on a year now. I think it was first brought to council back in December of 2021. And it's, an ordinance that there was a lot of communication back and forth between what we call the stakeholders, which are the business owners that own a business in downtown Cibolo, and then the homeowners in the area. And so our initial thought was to get those two groups of people together in a room and
lock the doors.
Yeah, right. And just have them work it out. That's what we hoped would happen. That was our initial approach. And, there were two meetings, with the stakeholders and the nearby residents, the homeowners nearby. And our chief of police, Chief Huggins, was able to kind of mediate those conversations and, keep the dialogue flowing. The city, the police department of Cibolo did receive a lot of complaints for the noise levels in the downtown area. Some of those complaints were repeats from the same person multiple times. And, it wasn't just, Old Main that was called upon. There were also complaints against the 1911 Cigar Bar, which is a fantastic place. I went there when they opened and, bought a cigar and sat in the backyard and, and enjoyed some conversation with a couple of people there. And so I really enjoy that business. But it seems like that there's a bit of tension, just to be honest with you, between the people that have lived there for a long time and the businesses that are thriving down there. I feel like if they weren't doing so well, there probably wouldn't be a lot of noise, but they are. They're doing great. And so, these places end up attracting a ton of customers over the weekend, and sometimes the customers, may end up exceeding the noise level, through conversations, yelling, you name it. There's often live music down in that area, but I know that I like live music, and I feel like that the people that that frequent those establishments, they want live music too, and so there has to be a balance. It's tough to find that balance, though. We had a noise decibel level of 85, which I thought was fair, and that that had been the the law of the land in Cibolo for a number of years, but it was recently talked about, and we did end up having 3 proposals in front of us. One is to do nothing. One is to do the staff recommendations, and when I say staff, I mean the City of Cibolo staff. And then the other was the stakeholder recommendation. The staff recommendation is very similar to the stakeholder recommendation. It would have carried a 65 decibel limit after 10 p.m., unless, of course, you get a special permit to go to 75 from 10 p.m. until 11 p.m. And so what we ended up doing, there was a motion for the staff recommendations. That motion failed. And then we ended up going with, maybe the lesser of two evils, which was the stakeholder recommendation. And those are recommendations that were negotiated between Chief Huggins, the Cibolo Police Department chief, and the business owners. And so, I think that was a suitable middle ground. I don't think anybody walked away from the table completely happy, to be honest with you. After that council meeting, we had 150 butts and seats that night. So people came out. People were very, very concerned of this noise ordinance and how it was going to go down. Nobody wants to lose Cibolo businesses. Nobody does.
I'll give you my answer that I give to everybody I've shook their hand, everybody who's let me darken their door and just visit with them during this week, is the noise ordinance has been visited, revised, and adopted. We will get a review in 6 months, and we'll get a hard review in 12 months. Do we need to make any adjustments at either one of those times? Did we do a good thing? Did we cause harm? We'll review it. And everybody's been fine with that answer. At least they've told me they're fine with that answer. We just don't need to be running around kicking the anthill again. The answer's settled. We're settling. And we move on from that point now. There's always two sides to every, let's call it, conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to make sure that we have both sides of this ordinance and the reason to have that ordinance, understanding it and appreciating it.
Well, the ordinance has changed, and it was if I recall correctly, a lower decibel. I don't honestly remember if the time frame changed. My recollection were a lot of the complaints came anonymously, which okay, I guess you got to take that at face value. But there's obviously a balance for the folks that are, sorry, got away from the microphone here. The citizens, want to sleep, even if they're not sleeping. Maybe that's their time of night when they're up, but they don't necessarily want to hear have their evening interrupted. But you also have the economic development, the impact. How are you going to pull those people in? A lot of folks want to have fun in the evening. So that impacts places that have a venue like Old Main, or other folks that want to have, over at Ernie's that have, live music as well, or just playing music, even if it's through, radio, through speakers or something of that nature. That's tough. I would have liked probably seen more individual. Anonymous is hard to get into. Is that one person that, one side would say, well, that could be one person that filed 30 some odd anonymous complaints, which is, to me, that's a valid possibility. But I would like to see those people, if they truly were individuals, come to citizens to be heard. Be on the record. Not everybody wants to be that way. They want to state their opinion, but they don't want to, become viewed as a pariah. Something I get it. I really do. Would like to see, more individual, input on what it is, what was bothering them. Are there other opportunities to help out the citizen and the business? Are there other, you like Old Main because it has a little bit of that outdoor flair. You truly feel like you are outside. Are there, would Nick and his folks be open to any kind of any more enclosures? Would there be a way to help, to fund that? What other ideas could have been brought to the table that the business owner doesn't think will negatively impact them, but that the private property owners surrounding that say, all right, I can live with that. Not a peanut butter spread, but each side feel like they got some kind of win out of it. I didn't get 100% of what I wanted. I did not attend those public hearings, and of course, if there were any, I don't know that there were any executive sessions, where they got sought legal advice. So I would not, of course, be privy to that information. But I'd like to have heard more of the calculus that went into it on that, because it at the end, if you're trying to build Old Town, and then that noise ordinance is going to limit people that might want to come based on the business model they have. It's going to be things that don't generate a lot of noise. Okay. Some folks, let's be more, like green, or let's be more like downtown Bernie, let's just use green, great, obviously, the dance hall there, great music venue. But something like you've mentioned Bluebonnet a couple times, that's not wouldn't work with that noise ordinance, downtown. So, it's a delicate balance. But I think maybe there were some other I again, not involved with all the direct discussions, not the other options that were put out there to see what would work for both sides.
I'm not saying that something didn't need to happen if we had a complainant, because all people needed to be heard, of those parties. But how do we say this? Put it this way. I think that if there was more diversity, people understanding music, types of musics and things like that, I think that ordinance targeted a demographic of types of music. And I think that's what made it unfair. And I think that just because you are a council member, it doesn't prioritize that issue. And we have to be careful, because it's the greater good, not a personal good, if you would. I think that we could have went back even further. We made that a commercial and residential area. That was the problem, okay? Because these businesses bring in money, right, for the city. And like I said, just 20 years ago, this city was pretty much dying, and people started to come. Now we have to cater to those people. And I personally like Old Town because it's safe. I'm not in the bigger city. Dealing with gun violence and all the other things that they have there. I can go sit and have a cigar in peace, or have meet some folks at Old Main and have a drink, or get some good food. Go right across the street and have a great meal, like some of the best steak I've ever had. But what bothered me most when I started to do that and started to kind of dig deep into this whole leadership thing in Cibolo was, the police that are coming around every 30 minutes to check noise. I thought that was interesting use of resources. I'll say that. it is what it is. The ordinance has been, passed, voted on, all that stuff. There's this trial period. I think that it's just fair to go through because it is a part of the process. We have to respect the process, right? Do I think it was fair? No, I don't. I think that we need just to look at the bigger issue, which is that Old Town overlay. So we're here now. Let's get through it, evaluate it, let it come back and throw it out or modify, whatever we're going to do.
Why should a Cibolo resident vote for you?
I have a big heart for Cibolo, and I think that I am fair, ready to listen to different options and ideas. I think that I have a breadth of experience within the citizen side of governance of our city, and I think I represent what most of them feel is important.
Okay, well, I'm looking to continue the great work that Mayor Boyle and what we've done on council I've been around for 4 years. Mayor Boyle and Joel Hicks have been around for 5 years. And so together we've made a lot of progress in, like I mentioned earlier, on the roads and the great relationships that we have with the city of Schertz, as well as the city of Live Oak, city of Selma, other surrounding neighborhoods or not neighborhoods, but other surrounding cities like Marion and New Berlin, Santa Clara. And so I feel that I can continue the great progress that we've made and continue the vision that we have for Cibolo. And I feel it's really important to have somebody in a leadership position that's going to really champion and pick up the torch and run with it. And some of the things that we've been doing as far as on the community engagement side is we started the Cibolo Summer Nights program a number of years ago. We do a one event per month each summer for Cibolo kids and families. We're resuming Cibolo Fest this year. We did have a 2-year hiatus due to the COVID pandemic, but we're back on October 1st, so coming up in just a couple weeks on a Saturday. We're planning our second annual Veterans Powwow to be held in November of 2022. And so that'll be, honoring our veterans. And so it'll also be the second year we've done it. We also do a Sweethearts Soiree, which is an event that we hold for our senior citizens. So we try to do a little something for every age group. The senior dance that we hold is over at the Noble Group Event Center, and we thank Donovan Jackson for always volunteering his event center for that event. What we do there is we bring the senior citizens from Cibolo over to have a special day just for them, where we serve them lunch and we do a dance, and we give away prizes, raffle tickets that are free. It's all free for the seniors, and we name a king and queen every year. So it's something that that we like to do for our citizens. We like to engage everybody. We've got the kids covered with Cibolo Summer Nights. We got the senior citizens covered. We also opened up a senior center recently. I was over there last Friday calling bingo for all the senior citizens that come. We had a really good turnout. I think there were 60 people in there. It's held at the Grange over on Main Street in Cibolo. And so just being able to truly continue on with the path that we're on today, which is, we are our citizens' voice. Mm-hmm. I look at myself as a community activist first. That's kind of what brought me into the fold and, becoming a councilman. We had an apartment complex that was proposed to go up right next to my neighborhood. And so my neighbors and I kind of rallied against that and went to attended P&Z meetings and spoke out against it. It ended up getting quashed. And so that, and then also this, this toll road, that was on the plans. And so those are the types of things that, I was able to work with other citizens and other council members, and of course Mayor Boyle, to make sure to truly hear our citizens. Because I'm not here for my own personal, not here to attain wealth or for my own personal gratification. I'm here to help my friends and neighbors, you know, because I'm one of you. I'm just a neighbor to everybody, you know. I'm a friend to everyone that contacts me, and I feel like I'm responsive to all of my, you know, to the citizens of Cibolo. I mean, that's who I serve, and that's who ultimately, you know, ends up voting for, you know, not just for me, but for the rest of council. So.
Because church residents can't vote for me.
Love it. Love it.
You know, we understand that Selma residents can't either. What you see is what you get. I'm not going to bring any ego to the table. I have a lot of history to guide me, and I have pretty good vision. You know, I can be an outward thinker. I can see where we need to go. I can't tell you the industry that we need to make us viable. That will be a long-term industry in our community that will help people live and work in Cibolo. You know, and I was thinking about this the other day, and you know, we all have our strong German heritage. It's not anything other than the fact that a lot of our founding founders were of German heritage in New Braunfels. I think I'm saying it right. Their slogan is, you know, "Ist das Leben schön?" And you know, in one of my, well, you can see in my flyer, you know, that's the good life, living and working in Cibolo. So, "Ist das Leben gut?" You know, why can't we do some "Ist das Leben gut" in Cibolo and live and work there? That's the life. You know, no commute. If you're commuting from 78 to I-10, wow, isn't that cool?
Cibolo resident, why should they vote for me? I think I have unmatched leadership, both military and current, the elected experience. And that not just with city council, but, you know, the year. So I retired 2017. You really can't be involved in politics while you're in the military. I don't look good in orange. I didn't want to be in an orange jumpsuit. So I stayed out of it, at least active involvement. And I was on 4 committees, commissions in the 1 year between retiring and running for office, because I needed to learn how, as best I could in a short amount of time, how a municipality operates. And then with my professional experience and work that has a lot involved. I mean, you think, well, what about military veteran affairs? Because of that work that we do to protect Joint Base San Antonio involves a lot with planning, zoning, development, compatible land use. So those things are all applicable because you're getting into UDCs, Unified Development Codes. You're getting into, you know, local Texas local government code. All that's applicable, can be brought into discussions that you have with city council, city staff, other folks that want to come to the city when you were mayor. So I've got, I think, the integrity, I've got the experience, the leadership, and the ability to work across the aisle, if you were, whether it's the current 7 council members. Those may change over time based on elections, you know, to bring folks to come to the table. And I think you're going to get transparency from me. You're going to get honesty. And again, may not be the answer you want to hear. It's not going to be in your face. But again, if you walk away saying, I don't agree with what he said, but I know why he got there or why the city got there, and I can at least live with that, then that's a victory, I think, from elected officials out to their constituents.
With everything that we just talked about, I think that I'll be the difference, coming in. I'm that leader that can look at, the road construction issues, and I've been a part of, those delays and things like that in the morning trying to get to work, and the noise ordinance, and call it out for what it is. I think that you need somebody there that has courage. Courage to say, hey, no, this sounds like this is targeting a demographic, and we need to kind of expound on this a bit. Why? And you need somebody to have courage to say, hey, council person, you're doing too much. You need to remove yourself from this decision because this is based off you. Somebody has to have the courage to hold people accountable. And I'm your girl. I'm the person that can do that, So I would hope that they vote for me, and if they choose not to vote for me, I hope that they make 2 other wise decisions.
Mayor Boyle asks, as mayor, what programs, initiatives, and processes would you keep, fix, or do away with in Cibolo?
Well, let's start with programs. So we have Cibolo Summer Nights, and some of the stuff through the Parks program. I think I wouldn't interfere at all with those. Those were amazing programs. The one that I would look to maybe strengthen, I don't know that fix is the correct word, would strengthen would be the senior center. The senior center is running our Meals on Wheels, which is something that I personally have a heart for. It was one of my father's most favorite charities, and like right now we have an issue at our senior center where the refrigerator that keeps the Meals on Wheels food cold is broken. They're using a different one. It's not like they're letting the meals get warm, but I would strengthen our processes to get the assistance for those programs. Certainly understanding it a little bit better and providing. And then the other one was
initiatives, processes, and programs.
I'm not aware of any initiatives.
Okay.
So initiatives and then processes.
Mm-hmm. 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
So the process of the budget, I think they did a better job this year than last year. Of course, this is Reed's second year, so you would expect that, and I would continue to try to support that. The process of redoing our master plan, I would like to strengthen that. That costs some money.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be budgeted for, and you have to have citizens that are willing to be a part of it. So how we execute on that process would probably be extremely important. And then we have our charter review, which changed the way that we elect people in Cibolo. And I think that's going to have a major impact on the processes. So I as a mayor, I think you have to just be open to that it's going to be changing. And you need to be prepared for that.
That's it? Okay. I thought we talked about a full page. All right. I got it. Okay. So the programs that I would, like I mentioned earlier, we've got the Cibolo Summer Nights program. I feel like it can be improved upon a little bit. Maybe some better advertising, try to get, to more families to come out and enjoy themselves. Maybe get some food truck vendors and, maybe come up with, something free, for the children to enjoy, whether that's a popsicle or, it doesn't have to be expensive. And so, something to improve the attendance there. Mm-hmm. It's a great event. For those that decide to come out, I think everyone enjoys it that does come, but I'd really like to see more people come out and enjoy it. But as far as the senior citizen program, we are renting space at the Grange. We were able to fund that, our Cibolo Senior Center through a grant in cooperation with Comal County. And, someday I'd love to see us not be renters and to be owners and to own a senior center, a facility where we can, turn it into a nice senior center, similar to how they did it in Schertz. I believe that used to be, I think, the YMCA, or I forget exactly what it was, but, they were able to take over that building and, to just make it work as a senior center. So I think that would be something we can improve upon. In addition to that, like I mentioned earlier, the senior soiree, the senior prom that we do, we definitely need to continue that event. And in the past years, we had a Veterans Thanksgiving dinner that we would hold over at the Noble Group. And before that, we did it down at the VFW off 78. I'd like to see that event come back. To me, it was a great success. We had a lot of people coming out there that were, frying turkeys and, and cooking the Thanksgiving food, and we really enjoyed serving our veterans, and then recognizing that other group, which is a substantial group of people in the Cibolo and Schertz and area, just this whole area, with the military base being here. We've got a ton of retired military members that, honorably served, and then, potentially, served at Randolph, and, got familiar with Cibolo Schertz area and just fell in love with it and decided they wanted to come and make this their forever home. And so I really feel like it's important to honor the veterans that served our country and that live in this area. A new event that I've been kind of kicking around, and I'd like to get some support from the council members, is a ice skating rink. Just an event that we can do in the winter months, whether that's right around Christmas time, while the kids are out for winter break. I've talked to a few different companies. We did have a presentation at one of our council members from one of the companies that provides that service. I know that they're doing something similar to that off of 3009 over there at the Natural Bridge Caverns, where they have a kind of a faux ice situation going, where it's slick enough to be able to skate on. But I think that'd be a cool event to do for the children, and while they're out for winter break and looking for something to do. Serve some hot chocolate over there, and have kids come out and skate around on the ice skating rink together. That's something that I feel like we could afford to do with with the events budget that we have. The same budget that goes to Cibolo Summer Nights and Cibolo Fest and things like that. So I'd like to continue on with with these great programs that a lot of them were started by Mayor Boyle. And I feel it's important that we don't abandon these programs, that we continue to keep them going and to just do them better year after year.
That's a big, long question.
Came straight from a politician.
Yeah. Well, I won't call him a politician. and the things I've seen Stosh deal with, I have a lot of respect for the way he's handled a lot of things. And there's going to be things that I'll do that people will pick apart and say, well, you were probably right about that one. And I'm sure Stosh is the same thing. You can say, well, yeah, you were probably right about that one. But processes, again, we go back to, you may not see it as a fire, but I see these things as a fire. So which ones do you start with? And it really does come down to how do you create that good, solid team, the solid team work. I'm not saying that Stosh hasn't done that. I think he's made a great effort at doing that. The fact that Cibolo now and the council now has established and adopted mission statements and those sorts of things, that's your guiding document, that's your in-house constitution. You want to follow that? Does this, what we're doing, what we're talking about, and what we are thinking about implementing, how does that apply to this? You've always got to have something to go back to. So I'm not going to pick them apart and say there was anything that they're doing wrong, anything that, there's a lot of things they're doing right. And it's just, why do you want to pick a fight by saying you did this wrong, and then 6 months later everyone say, well, you were pretty good on that one. It's just, you got to go in there, you take good measure, you follow along, and then, the first thing about a good manager that I've always appreciated, we've seen managers, and we've seen good managers. Just like we've seen city managers, and we've seen good city managers, and we've seen a lot of mayors, and we've seen some good mayors. It's not an anthill. You don't have to go in there and kick it. You need to go in there and understand it. And then you adjust if adjustments need to be made. I'm not going in there being anti-Stosh or anti-anybody. I'm still in true admiration for whoever has put their name out and says, look at me, and I'm willing to give the time. Hooray for you.
Yeah.
And then later on, we'll have conversations out on the dock, some in German, some in Spanish, some in English, and say, well, that was a pretty good idea, but he really tripped on that one.
Well, as mayor, there's nothing I'm going to single-handedly be able to get rid of. That would be, council initiatives, or based on recommendations rather from staff on things that may be valid, but because of budget, something either needs to get curtailed or go away altogether. Like the current youth programs that we have, very, very popular. Those are good for business development as well. So it's Cibolo Summer Nights. I know it was initiated by Mayor Boyle even before he became mayor. I know that's an idea of his. That brings people in to Cibolo that don't live in Cibolo. So when they're done, maybe they want to go to the mill for some ice cream, or mom and dad get a babysitter for the kids. Maybe it's even grandma and grandpa for the babysitter, and they go to Old Main. They go to Ernie's for a nice cold one afterwards, or go over to Rooted Fork or 1911 for something to eat. Of course, you got Harmon. I mean, I don't want to exclude. I'm not mentioning a business doesn't mean I'm avoiding them. But you get what I'm saying. It would bring people to downtown after that youth event, for example. Proud to say that one initiative I brought forward, one of my accomplishments from council, was starting the Cibolo Seniors Program. It was for about $25,000. I think it was the first year. I think council in this budget upped it by about another $2,000. Great opportunity for the folks. It ties in with Cibolo Grange. This is a nice partnership with the local. Kept the money here. It kept the money in Cibolo. Very inexpensive for the first year. Myself and another councilman brought the idea to council, got approved to go forth, and provided it was like one page to a handful of folks from the Parks and Rec Commission. It's just said, go build a watch, basically. Don't care that it's your guys' decision. If what you come back to council with is a digital watch, analog watch, just go build a watch. They did all the heavy lifting, brought back great recommendations to council. Council, approved, and that's to credit to the due diligence those folks put into their presentation. Provides congregate meals there. There's Meals on Wheels tie-in, and visited with those folks last week, and the individual testimonials, if you will. And the big thing I know any seniors program does, it gets folks out of their homes and eliminates periods of isolation. So it's just been great. So definitely that one, keep that one going, because there's benefit and value to those folks in our population. And I think in Cibolo is only going to be getting older. We had a lot of folks who are aging in place as a demographic term. Kids are important as well. So we've got program in place for kids. We got something in place for those who are getting older. And it was a stark reality for me that consider seniors program, you qualify if you're 50 or older. I'm like, oh no, that's me. So that shattered my thought of traditional a senior citizen being Medicare age or older. All right, well, and then anything else to initiate to go away is based on that. Again, not the mayor's point or has that power to do that. It's to bring those ideas together of things that. In the military, every year you budget, and you have the same thing in municipalities. There's a red line, there's a cut line, and there's things that fall below that based on your priorities, tied back to your strategic plan, whatever those other governing documents are. And people always view, and I get it, anything below that line, you lost. Well, no, good money management, you've only got enough for here and above, and unless you're going to go into debt to cover something below, again, might not be good stewards of the taxpayers' money. So it's that council involvement, staff involvement, and then engagement with the community so that they know where you're coming from.
I have no idea. I don't know what I would do away with, because you don't know if it's broke. You don't know if it's not working. When we took a leadership position in the military, we did something called a right seat ride, right? Basically, and in that process, right, there was a certain amount of time where you, as the leader coming in, you sit back and you kind of watch what's going on, how things are running, and that's how I look at that question. I need to see what's going on. I need the door to be open, and quite frankly, I don't believe that is the case currently. I think there's a lot of things that's going on in the city, but I don't know everything. I'm a city council sitter, right, virtually, and watch what's going on. But there are things that they bring up at the council. I'm like, what is that? Then I got to go back and look it up. So I don't know what I would keep, sir, or what I would change. But I mean, from my understanding, he's done a pretty good job, and if it's not broke, I won't try to fix anything with the little power that the mayor does have.
Is there anything we forgot to ask you, or that you want to add, or that you were surprised that we didn't ask?
I'm surprised you didn't ask me more about the toll road. I'm a little bit surprised about that, because I think that's some of the stuff that I come present on, and one of the reasons why I became more politically active in my community was understanding the reach of the MPO, understanding the impact that the TIP had, understanding what Guadalupe County's role was in it, and then really looking at the Texas Administrative Code, TAC, Texas Highway Commission, and how botched that was, how botched it was.
Okay. Well, I wanted to add that, we are a provider of water for a certain percentage of Cibolo, somewhere under 50%. And so we do have a company that operates within our borders. It's called GVSUD. And we've established great working relationships with GVSUD water board members, which will, in the long run, improve our working relationship with that water service provider, which serves Cibolo citizens this year. I'm supporting John Frias and Joey Nevy for their elections for the GVSUD water board. And so the reason why I brought that up is because that relationship has been really strained over the past decade or longer. And we've had a lot of challenges with that entity as far as who owns what territory. It's called the CCN, Certificate of Convenience and Necessity. And so I feel like with some of the recent developments within that board and having people that live in Cibolo get elected to that board, I feel like that we're able to kind of turn the page and start a new day with the GVSUD board and be able to work with them and come to the table and agree upon, hey, this will be our service area, everything west of Cibolo Creek to the city limits, and you guys can have, this other area, so I feel like that we're finally at a point where we're going to be able to negotiate and come to an agreement on, how we can really divide up and service these areas, because we do have a lot of growth coming between 78 and I-10. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to really need that defined. You can't really have growth and with there being disagreement over who's responsible for providing water and wastewater services. So I really feel like that we're in a good position now with relationships that we have with that board. And I feel like, a lot of the relationships that we built, with other cities and other council members and other mayors, just really improves the overall experience for all of us when it comes to finding, common goals we can work together on, just like we did with shirts, with the, used to be Wiederstein Road. Now it's Cibolo Valley Drive. I mean, they agreed to let us rename it and get a sign up on 35 with our city name on it. So yeah, having these important relationships, I feel are just a great benefit, to both parties, and I feel like that we're going to be able to do the same thing with this water board.
Okay, thank you. And I've always been appreciative of history. If you don't know where you were, you're going to go right back to it and repeat it again. There's a lot of great lessons to be learned from that. There were a lot of great people to be associated with. And there was an old country song many, many years ago that the fellows would say, "I hear voices. I hear my dad say he'd be a good man." Stuff like that, I hear my uncle, I hear my mom. So I do. I hear the family members from years back. 175 years ago, the first Slothers bought property in Guadalupe County, and that was 1850. 1876, Cibolo was founded. In 1875, the Slaughter family donated property to the St. Paul United Church of Christ at the time to build the church and for the cemetery. It's there on the third building now. The church is on the third building, and it's still an active church right there in the middle of Cibolo. Nancy's granddaddy established the red and white grocery store. And then going through her mom's estate, her dad passed in 2000, and her mom just passed in February of this year. Going through the estate and just a true treasure of photos we found, and a lot of photos just in perfect condition of her heritage, her family through here, and what downtown. We were taking pictures of family members, but you see downtown, and what downtown was. One little giggle about the noise ordinance was that the bowling alley had to be moved. It used to be right next to the tracks, but it was too loud. So they moved the bowling alley.
Really?
It's just still there, yeah. We have the buggy, the last buggy that the doctor that was in Cibolo that used a horse and buggy to make travels on. We have that buggy. Her dad, her granddaddy was instrumental in helping found the Cibolo Bank. And in our barn, we have the unincorporated sign from Cibolo Bank. We still have that from however long ago. It was a long time ago when they established the Cibolo Bank. There was a red and white grocery store. There was an IGA grocery store. We supported 2 grocery stores in downtown Cibolo. And I don't know if y'all knew it or not, but there was a Chevrolet dealership and a Ford dealership in Cibolo. The buildings are still there. Yeah, there were. And then her granddaddy built the feed store and the granary. He was the postmaster. Yeah, Ernst Sr. was the postmaster, and we have one of those desks, one of those post office desks, just a working desk with the slots. So we still have that. It's just a lot of history, but they're always forward thinking. They weren't stagnant people.
You didn't ask me what my favorite college football team. No, I won't get into that because that might lose votes.
You're an LSU guy, right?
No, well, I'm not an LSU guy. I grew up like you. Grew up in the north central part of the.
Oh, you're a Buckeyes.
I am a Buckeye. I didn't go to school there; it was too expensive. Ohio State is it's a state in name only. It's not a state school, and when it comes to cost, my parents gave me. Said you've got 4 years, and it's got to be the cheapest state school. So Bowling Green State University it was at that time.
Yeah, we used to play Bowling Green and hockey. Northern Michigan University, my alma mater. Yeah, that was like a big rivalry. I think I have a Bowling Green hockey puck somewhere in my garage.
You might. That was back in the day when I went to school there. You had Nelson Emerson and Rob Blake, who used to be a big-time player for the L.A. Kings.
Yep.
All and Nelson Emerson, I believe, was St. Louis Blues. That's where my hockey knowledge extends. But anything else I want folks to know? I've kind of got tried to not be too cute, but so on the ballot, I'm 4th position. So, and that's just pure luck of the draw. Where I was there that day, there are not any shenanigans. People are pulling names out of a hat, and that's where you are. So some ballot psychology says if you're not the first name or the last name, you're toast. So I tell folks, ask them, not only do I want your vote, and I ask you to vote for FOR, Tim Woliver, I'm asking you to vote the number 4 so that they remember when they get to that ballot, they're going for the fourth name. If I'm the person that they think has earned their vote. I'm out. I love knocking on doors. There's nothing like as much as you can knocking on doors, meeting folks. Or walking up and down, Main Street or visiting other businesses and introducing yourself. So it's not just somebody that you've seen on Facebook or on social media. You actually get a chance to engage them. And I ask people, ask me tough questions. It's one thing to say, these are my 2 or my 3 priorities, but can that person go, more than an inch deep on what they want? It's one thing to say, I want lower taxes. Okay, well, how do you propose doing that? What are your accomplishments? What were your accomplishments? Well, I voted for this bond. That's part of your record. That's not, to me, it's not an accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think any one person on the council could take credit for a given bond or, a vote. It's did you bring things to put on the agenda that I think we should do this or we should stop doing that? Did you get buy-in in a majority vote? And if you did, then there's an accomplishment to not so much brag about, but to back up. as opposed to just having maybe, taking the occupancy of a seat for 3 years. So that's what I would like folks to know is I will go for is just like I had a constituent came forward for the seniors program, and I said, well, let's see what's within the art of the possible, and brought that one forward. And so try to be a person of action and not just this traditional politician. Well, let me see if we can work on that, and then nothing ever happens. That's to me, that's not what you should be about. You may not get there, but did you do everything you can to bring that idea to reality?
I have no idea what you might have forgot to ask.
Anything you expected us to ask, or
Anything you were prepared to answer that we didn't ask?
and was the mayor's question too short? I mean, I don't
No, absolutely
Yeah.
not. I didn't know what to expect. I came in with zero expectations. Very open-minded. I'm very calculated in who I talk to. But I felt confident in your, when I met you.
Yeah.
So nothing.